How's it going? Pastor Andrew coming at you with another thought of the week. One of the things that I've been personally struggling with just these last few days is this idea of control. One of the big things that we crave in our life is the idea that we can control everything, that we try to set limits on different things in our life so we can have ultimate control over them, that we can allow something to go the way that we want it to go. One of the big things in my life has been fitness. Over the last 2-ish years or so, really trying to get myself in shape to get back in the military. And doing everything I possibly can to make sure that I can pass a Army physical fitness test, to make sure that I'm eating correctly, to make sure that I'm doing everything in my power to make sure I pass, make sure I can get in and do all of that stuff. But the question and kind of my thought that I have for the week is, what about those things that we can't control? There's so much out there these days, it feels like, that we think we're controlling, to think that we can cause it to go the way we want it to go, but in reality we can't. How do we as Christians address that? How do we accept the fact that there's things out there that we can't control? And the first being, and it's the first and only real thing, is to understand and know that if we have a belief in Jesus Christ, that we are one of God's children, that God's going to protect us, God's going to take care of us, that our best interests are in mind. And that's something that's really difficult for even Christians to comprehend. Because oftentimes we believe, we believe this lie that if I do good things, if I'm being obedient, that I'm just going to get whatever I want, that God's going to provide to me everything that I could possibly fathom. And that's just not true. It's not true at all. We have these prosperity gospel preachers out there that tell us that the way that we know we're good Christians is if we're prospering, that we have all of these riches, we have all of this wealth, and that's just not the case. That's not in the Bible found anywhere. We have to understand that, yes, God is in control, but yes, suffering is still going to happen, that we are still going to toil under the sun. Something that I personally struggle with is, again, not being able to control everything in my life. But one of the blessings that I have of being a child of God is knowing that even if I don't have that under control, that I don't have everything to control, that God does. And that God knows what's best for me. That God knows that He's ultimately going to be blessed by whatever situation happens, whether positive or negative. One of the things that I remember when I went to basic training back in 2010, the final thing we did before we were considered graduating, or we were going to graduate, we had to conduct a 25-mile ruck march with a 65-pound rucksack, and it was awful. And honestly, one of the things that made it so difficult was down at Fort Jackson was switching between sand to gravel to hardball to going back to sand, and your feet just never really got used to the surface that you were walking on. But I can just remember struggling and hurting, everything. Once I hit about mile 20, just everything hurt. From my shoulders to my abs to my legs, and especially my feet. But the thing is, and I'll never forget, we started about 9, 10 o'clock at night, and we finished about 6 a.m. in the morning. And I will never forget, as long as I live, watching, we were coming out of a ravine, coming up to the hardball road, and the second we stepped on that hardball road, we could see the sun coming up, and we could see our barracks in the distance, which was the finish line. And all that hard work and all that struggling, and we got to see that finish line. We knew that we were going to make it. And I remember it was a big deal. We got our berets and everything like that. We got to take our patrol caps off, and our drill sergeants hand us our berets, and we got to wear them because we were now officially soldiers of the U.S. Army. And just the accomplishment of knowing that, hey, I struggled and I fought hard, and there was something good at the end of the tunnel. And our life is the same way. We're going to struggle. We're going to have hard times. You know, the devil's going to beat us down. This world is going to beat us down. And God's going to be teaching us lessons along the way. God's going to allow us to struggle because he knows that it's going to make us stronger in the end. We just have to lose hindsight of what that end is. As we kind of close for this week, you know, one of the big things that we ultimately fear in this life is death. We get terrified of the idea of dying. Even Christians. And that confuses me. Because we have this mentality and belief that we have to live to be old. We try to elongate this world full of suffering. But the thing is, you know, when we die, that's the end. The race is finished. We got to that end. We get to spend forever in paradise with Jesus Christ. You know, we mourn, obviously, those that die. And it's a sad, sad thing for us because we no longer are with it. But we can rejoice in the fact that their suffering is over. The race is over for them. They hit that finish line, and now they're hanging out and enjoying life without suffering. Have a good week.